Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Metabolism and Menopause podcast. My name is Stephanie, and I am your host and CEO of Vitality OET. We are a women's health, nutrition, and fitness company that focuses predominantly on women's hormones, particularly as they start going through perimenopause and menopause. We know that women really start to struggle with hormonal symptoms like irritability, brain fog, night sweats, hot flashes, and then also sudden weight gain around the middle that seems to have come out of absolutely nowhere. Yet you've changed nothing in your routine. So you go back to your regular ways of losing weight. So you're cutting your calories, decreasing your carb intake, increasing your cardio and your exercise, yet nothing is working. And it leaves you feeling worse off than you were before and potentially even gaining weight. This leaves you feeling incredibly frustrated and feeling hopeless. So our mission is to help women understand what's going on in their bodies during this time in their life so that they can finally feel in control of their body again, feel at home and safe in their body again, live a life full of vitality, and finally reach their health and fitness goals. So on today's episode, I have the pleasure of having Coach Amy on with me. She is absolutely amazing. She has her own wonderful journey of her body composition changes and things like that. She has been with the company for almost a year now and is a well-seasoned coach. So I am very happy to introduce Coach Amy. And today we are going to be talking all about mindset to help you master fat loss during menopause. So like I said, today we are going to be talking all about mindset. We know that that's thrown around so much. We know that it's important, but what does that actually truly mean? Mindset refers to the beliefs that you hold about yourself in the context of nutrition, and kind of how we perceive things that might be right or might be wrong about the ways that we eat. And really everything begins with mindset. So Amy, what do you think mindset really is?
Yeah, mindset to me, it means, our thoughts become feelings and then those become actions and behaviors. Our minds can really be our greatest asset or our worst enemy. I definitely know that that's true for me. We know the phrase, anything is possible if you put your mind to it, but that is a lot easier said than done. And we know that.
Yeah. And the way that we speak to ourselves influences our behaviors, which is going to determine our success. So again, we're going to be talking all about the mindset things, some of the strategies that you can employ to help ensure that your mindset is really setting you up for success. And here at Vitality, we really talk about two different kinds of mindsets, which is fixed and growth mindset. And this is something we end up doing with all of our clients. We have worksheets, we talk about it. It's something that comes up all of the time. So we're going to talk about fixed mindset first, as this is really where we see, I would say 95% of our clients start. So Amy, let's just hop right into fixed mindset. Tell me all about it.
Yeah. So a fixed mindset is a thought pattern that's founded on the belief that your abilities are predetermined from the time you're born and really just can't be changed. So for example, if your family has a history of obesity, a fixed mindset would make you think that you're just going to be obese and there's really nothing you can do about it, right? So fixed mindsets are characterized by all or nothing thinking and can manifest in a lot of different ways. But here's some of the most common ways that we see with our clients. Maybe they eat one bad food and then say, screw it, I'm done for the day. Or the inability to hear feedback without feeling attacked or taking it personally. Maybe you quit when things feel hard or overwhelming, believing that you're incapable of success or that you are defined by your abilities. That all or nothing thinking, that's a big one. Maybe resistance towards challenges or learning something new, or feelings of being threatened by others' successes. And I would just add on to that last one, try to maybe not able to surround yourself with other very successful people, right? Being threatened by other people's successes and not seeing the value in how they can actually help your own success.
Yeah, that's something I actually noticed for me, particularly in business, was I'd be talking to people or they're further along in their journey or they have some more education or whatever that might be. And I was just super threatened. It made me feel super little. And I'm oh man, I'm never going to get there, or they're so much better than me. And I found that really actually held me back because it stopped me from reaching out to those people for help or surrounding myself with people that I wanted to learn from because it was so intimidating. And I think we do that a lot in honestly all aspects of our life. It's like we would rather just stay where we are and not change, because the idea of being around other people who might challenge you or like maybe make you realize that there's still quite a bit of growth that you need or that you could get to, that you don't know everything. I almost think that prevents us from like being successful, because we're like, we don't want to feel that discomfort, which is kind of wild.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then we have like our growth mindset, which is where we want to be. That's the goal at the end of coaching when we work with clients, is we want everyone to be in a growth mindset. And that's something I think all of us on staff really work on as well. Like we're constantly trying to learn and grow and improve ourselves. And it's a thought pattern founded in the belief that your abilities are determined by how hard you work on them rather than what you're born with. So growth mindsets are characterized by dynamic thinking, and just like fixed mindsets, that can kind of be shown in different ways. So the first one is like love of learning from failures or others, or even from feedback. So you love learning. You take everything as like an opportunity to learn something. Being inspired by others and their successes. Having a deep desire or belief that you can improve and you can succeed. The belief that talents are not fixed traits, that skills can be developed and will be developed. A willingness to seek out those challenges and actually face them head on instead of avoiding stuff when things get tough. The belief that attitude and efforts determine everything. Continued perseverance, and a belief that attitudes and efforts honestly do determine everything. And it's really important to note that someone with a growth mindset is not solely indicated on their effort to work on things or hone their skills. It's mainly indicated by their belief that their opportunity for success is unknown and limitless, and that you can really create your own future. So I think people are like, oh, I'm working hard and it's not working, or I'm doing everything right and it's not working. And that's not necessarily what that means. It's just knowing that there's lots of opportunity for success. You don't know what's to come. So I think people kind of get that mixed up sometimes. So transitioning from that fixed mindset to a growth mindset can be really hard and so much easier said than done. It takes so much work and practice, but doing a little bit every day can really make a huge difference for you. So Amy, what kind of things do you tend to have to remind clients throughout the journey to help them feel less overwhelmed? Because it can be a lot when you're thinking of all the different things of like a fixed mindset and how to transition those. So what are some things that you find yourself having to remind clients when they're stuck in that fixed mindset or they start feeling overwhelmed?
Yeah, it can be a lot. And it is very overwhelming when you're in that spot, right? And it's hard to kind of talk yourself out of that mindset. But some of the things that we can do are, understand that your success is limitless and that you can create your own future. So I have two sons, a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old, and they're two completely different people, completely different children. My younger son is very physical. My older son is very academic. He's incredibly smart, and he's always been known in his class as being like the smart kid, right? And so things just come easy to him in school. But when he is asked to do something that does not come easy to him, he shuts down. He completely shuts down. And as a mom, and I think that this will probably be relatable to like all of the parents who are listening, as a mom, you can take yourself out of it and look at your child and see that their potential is absolutely limitless, that they can do whatever they want, that whatever they put their mind to. And so I'm constantly just trying to tell him and teach him that, yes, you are so smart and you will be good and you will do good things. And I know that, but you have the potential to be great if you can just get past this fixed mindset that you have. It's a constant conversation we have in our house, right? The next one, embrace the journey you have chosen and understand that it will take time. Learn from your mistakes and trust the process. I always tell my clients that mistakes are part of it. It's part of the process. We learn the most when we make our mistakes, and we have to kind of learn from those mistakes. Being aware that transitioning from a fixed to growth mindset can be super challenging. It's hard, especially if you've been stuck in this fixed mindset for a long period of time. And the last one, you also don't have to make changes all at once. So just keep that in mind. Start small and work on improving yourself every single day. Like just try 1% every single day, 1%, get better 1% each day, and you're on the right track. So Steph, what are some things that people can do to help them start transitioning from this fixed to growth mindset?
Yeah. So like the one thing that you said that that really resonates with me is like where people think that like making a mistake, then they're a failure. And it's like, no, really the only thing that like I would say dictates like, oh, that was a failure is if you're not willing to learn from it. And then you end up repeating it over and over and over. I would say that's probably a failure, or like just not getting the right information and taking the right like courses of action, if that kind of makes sense. Because we're all going to make mistakes, and those things are always going to make you better, make you learn from it, make you grow. So that's like one thing that like really resonates. I mean, even for us, if we've had like at the very beginning when Vitality was growing and it was scaling incredibly quick, and we had like challenges with clients where it's like, oh yeah, maybe the program wasn't so great back then, or oh yeah, maybe we were missing a little something. Instead of being like, oh, that client was such a pain in the butt, it was like, okay, so if that was an issue for her, how can we make sure it's not an issue for someone else coming in? So we learned from it, we adjusted, we made things better. And I think that's why the program is so successful and why we're doing so well, is because instead of putting blame on someone else, it's like, okay, we do have to take some onus for it. How can we grow from that? So that's just like one thing that you said, like that really popped out to me that I wanted to like touch on. But in terms of like the first two things that come to mind for me on how to start transitioning from that fixed mindset to a growth mindset, the first one is reframing the way you speak to yourself, which people are like, oh, screw affirmations. They're so dumb. Honestly, I find the way you talk to yourself makes such a huge difference. Oh my goodness. Like, reframing like I can't to I can versus like I'll never achieve my goals to I'm working towards my goal. I trust the efforts. It's not going to happen overnight. Oh crap, like I messed up. I overate. I may as well give up. Be like, this didn't work for me. I overate my calories. How can I make sure that I do better tomorrow? Like what can I do to set myself up for success? I'm human and I'm going to make mistakes. And I always like to say, people are like, oh, I suck at this, or I'm too stubborn, or I'm this. And it's like, nah, I like to say I have a tendency to overeat. I have a tendency to shut down when I get feedback. Because changing that word to tendency tells you that that's something that's changeable, it's fixable, it's something that is able to improve in the future. Whereas if you're just like, I'm stubborn, that's like a set, very clear, like stake in the sand. I don't like stake in the sand because sand is not like sturdy. I don't like that quote or whatever it is. It's like carved in cement. Maybe that's like a better way. I don't know. But like, yeah, because I who came up with that? Like a line in the sand? Like that's pretty changeable. That's more of like a tendency than like a strict thing, but whatever.
One gust away and that line's gone.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't know where that saying came from. I just don't like it. Then the other one again is like learning to embrace those setbacks. Like what we know, what doesn't kill us is going to make us stronger. Use those setbacks and failures as fuel to to fuel your fire, to help you come back, to help you learn, and really embrace those obstacles because it's going to make you more resilient in the long run, and help you be better equipped to handle future failures too. Because like, okay, so this happened. Now I can like set myself up for success by making sure that if this does happen again, how am I going to approach it, or how can I avoid this from happening again? Like it's all about learning. What other things, Amy, can you think of when it comes to like trying to help transition from that fixed mindset to your growth mindset?
Yeah. Well, so embracing obstacles, it's like every obstacle that we come up on, you can kind of think about that's just one more block or one more brick in building the foundation that will then inform all of your decisions from here on out, right? So instead of looking at it as an obstacle, you can be like, okay, that's just one more piece of this foundation that I am going to use to inform my decisions in the future. And gosh, our self-talk is the way we talk to ourselves is so incredibly powerful. I love that you say I have a tendency toward, right? My like go-to word is yet. Like I'm not good at that yet, right? Just adding that one little 3-letter word at the end of the sentence can be so powerful. So some other things for sure. I mean, number one, trust the process. So we know it can be super hard to trust that your hard work is paying off, especially if you don't see results quickly. So Steph, one of my very favorite books is Atomic Habits.
Love that book so much. I've read it, highlighted it. I love it.
I love it so much. We talk about it all the time. Can't recommend it enough. But he talks about this plateau of latent potential. And basically, what you think is going to happen when you start to work on something, right? Everybody thinks that it's going to be like this linear line. You have a start here, you have an end here, and it's going to be smooth sailing on the way, right? But what really happens is it takes a little while, right? And your progress looks more like this. It's below that line. It's below what you think should happen. And he calls that spot the valley of disappointment, because you're doing all of the hard work, you're putting all of this work in, you're doing all of the right things, but you're not seeing the results that you think that you should see. And a lot of people quit there, right? But what really happens is if you stick it out, you trust the process, you start to grow, but your growth is exponential. It's exponentially higher than that linear growth that you thought would happen. So trusting the process is so super important. Next is know that everything you're doing now is setting you up for success. So again, just, everything you're doing now is just another brick to that foundation that you're building. We can stay the course and trust in yourself and the people around you who are here to help. And another big one, remember your why. So why are you doing this? Why do you want to achieve the goals that you've set for yourself? Is it so that you can live a long, happy, and healthy life, free of restrictions? Or maybe it's so that you can improve your physical fitness so that you can enjoy going on adventures with your family. In times of doubt, remind yourself of your why, because this is what's going to keep you coming back and keep you dedicated doing this for the long haul, right? So some things that could help with this: fill your mirror, your fridge, maybe your front door with sticky notes. Give yourself those positive affirmations and just fill your day with those positive affirmations. Keep the focus on your reasons for embarking on this health and fitness journey. To stay the course, achieve your goals, and become the best version of you. And I would add to that, try to find a why that has nothing to do with aesthetics, nothing to do with the way you look, nothing to do with the number on the scale, nothing to do with a pant size. If you can find a why and a reason that has nothing to do with those things and more to do with the quality of your life or the relationships that you have, the other stuff will fall into place. The other stuff will absolutely fall into place if you stay the course and your reasons for doing it goes a little bit deeper than that. Wouldn't you say, Steph?
Oh, 100%. Like, I find that when I focus on aesthetic stuff, that's typically when I really start to struggle. When I focus on like my health. So when I focus on like the end goal, I tend to do really terrible, to be completely honest, because I'm just so focused every day that I'm not there yet. Whereas if I'm like, okay, things are not going great. So like I'm in a fat loss phase right now. And I messaged Cariana and I was like, oh, I messed up because I'm just so focused on like how things are. That I haven't been focusing on like the little process stuff. Like, yeah, I've been meal prepping and stuff, but completely forgot about water. My weight jumped up 2.5 pounds in 2 days because I wasn't pooping and I was clearly like retaining fluid because I was so dehydrated. So then I like chugged a bunch of water on, I think it was Monday. And then again, the scale jumped up like another pound because my body's like, okay, we need to like replenish this hydration because you are sucking at this. And then I woke up today and I was almost 2 pounds lighter. So it was like, okay, I still need to just focus on the process and the health and like, hey, drink some freaking water. And so it's like when I focus on like the end goal thing, I'm so hyper focused on like just a couple things as opposed to like the whole process. And I think even in like business and stuff like that, when I focused on like, okay, I want to get this or that or hit this goal or whatever it is, things don't do well when I focus on like the process and nurturing relationships and doing the things that bring me joy and like that kind of stuff. Things always go better. So like I always find that like trusting the process and focusing on like enjoying the process and being a part of the process is so much more important than the end goal. Because then every day you're just like, not there yet, not there yet, not there yet. And like, let's face it, that doesn't put you in a good mood, literally ever.
Ever, never.
So I want to go over some of like the more common fixed mindset examples that we typically see, and then just show how we can adjust to a more growth mindset, and also give examples in both of like our personal lives where we used to be fixed mindset in the kind of example that we're giving. And it doesn't have to be like nutrition and fitness, but it can be, or nutrition and fitness, but it can be like business, personal life, relationships, whatever it is. Because for me, I can think of a ton when it comes to like education, business, confidence, relationships, more than like food per se. Because I've always had like a pretty good relationship with food, because like it's such a huge part of Latin culture that like I'm used to having a ton of food around. So like it wasn't that bad for me. I still seeked out food for comfort sometimes, but it wasn't, it's not as big of an issue as I find with other people. But I think it's just because food was such a plentiful thing. We were just used to having like baking out all the time, and like used to having like we'd have like Christmas Eve and we're literally eating from 11 in the morning till 2 a.m. in the morning the next day. And it's just food's constantly coming out. So it's like, I learned to have a good relationship with food, but I think it's because it was around all the time that it was just like normal. You ate when you were hungry. If you weren't hungry, you didn't eat, like that kind of stuff. And I mean, that's different once your metabolism is slowed and blah, 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 whatever. And we'll talk about that another day. But let's get right into it. So first fixed mindset thing is the all or nothing. So that's the classic, like, if I eat a donut, I'm going to get fat. I can't eat bad foods, or I'm a bad person. I ate a slice of pizza today. Screw it. I'm going to eat whatever the heck I want because I already blew it. That kind of stuff. Whereas like a growth mindset is going to be like believing that one small mistake or action is not a failure, but an opportunity to learn. So, okay, this donut contains some calories. That maybe wasn't the best. I just need to adjust around it. Or I'm not going to punish myself because I had something that I wanted to eat. I ate a slice of pizza. Cool. Next meal, I'll just make sure I have some more veggies. Not a big deal. So for you, Amy, what is like something you used to have an all or nothing mindset around? And then how has that changed now?
Oh man. I mean, so many things, but I definitely have had to work on my relationship with activity. I go hard, and I kind of go hard in every aspect of my life. And I definitely fall into the all or nothing mindset if I'm not careful. So I used to be way back when I was a cardio queen. I'm a recovering cardio queen now. I used to do 90 minutes on the stair climber or nothing. Right?
Oh my gosh. I swear, if I were to hop on a stair climber now, I think I would last 2 minutes, and I think my legs would fall off and my heart would fall out of my chest.
I'm not kidding. I do not recommend this. This is not something anybody should do, but that's what I did. I would do 90 minutes or nothing. And then once I got into strength training, that was a better way to move my body, but not if I don't keep that in check. So there was a period of time there where I was lifting 6 or 7 days a week, and I was lifting hard 6 or 7 days a week. And it's not until just in the recent years that I have found a really sweet spot for me individually. I lift 4 days a week. 4 days is my sweet spot. I'm not doing any cardio. On those days when I'm not lifting, I walk, but I don't do anything crazy. But it took me a long time to get to that point, because like I said, I go hard. I go hard until I can't. So
yeah, no, for me, I feel it was a little bit more like academic. For me, I can think of like all or nothing big time. It was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to crush it. And if I'm not doing well, screw it, I'll just take a loss on it. Like, it was like, I remember I was in a Native studies class, or Indigenous studies class, I think is what it was called. And they, it was a class that I just really struggled with. It was like, the text wasn't stimulating enough for me. And like, I just really struggled. I didn't like the way questions were worded. I was like, I don't even know what this question is asking. Whereas I'm like a science-minded person. It was like biology, math, like anatomy, physiology, loved those things, crushed it. So like in those classes, I was like, I'm going to crush it. I'm going to get 90s. I'm going to do so good. And then like, I'd get to another class and be like, I don't even know if I really want to study. And then it's like, those ones were not so great. So it was like, if I knew I was going to crush it, I was going to crush it and crush it out of the park. And if I knew like there was a chance of like failure, I almost like self-sabotaged myself a bit and was like, I'm not going to really try, because it sucks when you try really hard and you don't succeed or you don't meet your expectations. So I was like, I'm not really going to go there. And I think a lot of people do that with nutrition and stuff. They're like, they mess up a little bit and then they're like, I'm going to just totally screw this because if I try hard and don't succeed, I'm going to hate myself, which is like brutal. But I think that's something that a lot of people really kind of go towards, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure.
So next one is the inability to hear feedback without feeling attacked. This is one that I think sports help me with a ton because you get told you suck a lot. So that helped me a ton. But like something to remember is that like, let's say you're working with a coach or you're asking, like you message me and you ask for help, for example. Remembering that we're here just to help you. We're giving you feedback as an opportunity to grow, to succeed, to learn. We 100% respect you as a person and we care about your success. Like I would not be doing assessments for free every day in my DMs, asking people about their health, their sleep, their stress, their digestion, their past dieting history, and then telling you, ooh, I think you might have to eat more, or ooh, you might have to eat a little bit less, or hey, this is how much protein you should have. And then you get mad at me. I'm like, I'm just trying to help you for free. Like I'm giving you all of the education and knowledge that I can with the information you provided me to help you be successful because I want to help women improve their health. But then you're mad at me because I'm telling you you're not eating enough. Okay, that's really like, how am I supposed to help you because you're not letting me help you? So like, it's trying to like, you can't, it's really hard to grow if you don't get feedback. So is there like a certain area that you used to like really struggle with, like feeling attacked if someone gave you feedback, like in a particular area?
I mean, this is hard for me anyway. I think my parents would tell you, that my go-to saying is like, don't tell me what to do. So I, and I'm sure that my 9-year-old child that I talked about, my son, I'm sure that this is where he gets it from, right? I'm constantly telling him, your teacher is not trying to be mean to you. If she's asking you to do something that's challenging for you, it is to help you be the best person you can be. So yeah, I mean, as coaches, we care. That's it. You know, that's our main motivation is to help you become the person that you want to be. And yeah, I mean, like I said, I constantly have a hard time with this. So it's kind of like in all areas of my life that I just always have to keep myself in check.
Yeah. Well, I remember being in track in high school and like I'd been a distance runner since I was in kindergarten because I was one of those kids that like my mom tried to put me in ballet. She wanted me to be like this very girly girl, like very like, you know, graceful. And that's not me. We all know that. Like everyone's like, there's no way you could be a ballerina. Cute dream. So I was just that kid that would like run around because I had all this energy. So my mom's like, you want to run, kid? We're just going to put you in running and you're going to run far for a long time. Then you're going to go to bed. So she put me in cross country from when I was in kindergarten. So like I ran distance literally my entire life, which like now if you catch me running, you should probably run because there's something chasing me. Cause like, I feel like I've put in my miles, I'm done. But like in high school, I remember I wanted to do sprints because sprints seemed cool, you know, like that's the popular kids were doing. And it's like, you run one time fast for like 10 seconds and you're done. Like amazing. So my track coach was like, Steph, you went to provincials in distance last year. Like, what are you doing? Like, no, you're not doing a short distance race. I'm like, I can do this. And he's like, no, you can't. And I'm like, I'm going to prove you wrong. He's like, no, you're not. And I'm like, are you okay? And my mom, like I was stubborn, but my mom would say I'm strong-willed. It's a much nicer way to say it. But I ran and he's like, I'm going to be at the finish line and I'm going to tell you I told you so. And I was like, the F you are. Like, I was like, absolutely not. I came in second last in my heat and he was there. He's like, I'm going to say it. I'm like, I don't want to hear it. And he's like, are you going to run the 3,000 tomorrow? And I was like, yeah. And then I won it. And it's like, really? Like, just, but I was one of those people, if someone's like, you can't do it, I'm like, I'll prove you wrong. And like, sometimes it would work. And then other times, really, really not. But I mean, like, he saw my potential. He wanted me to be successful. And he knew that that was just going to like interfere with the training of distance and stuff. And he was 100% right. And it is what it is.
I think it's important to see the value of those people in your life who can actually help and aid you in being better, right?
Yeah. And like having those people in your corner is helpful, and knowing that like they're not doing it because they want to see you fail. Like that's not what they're there for. Like they want to see you succeed, and they see your potential. They know what you're capable of. It just sometimes we like to like test it and go off course and be like, okay. It's almost like a test to be like, how much do you really know? I'm going to try something else. And it's like, oh yeah, no, you were right. Here we go. We're coming back. I trust you a little bit more again. Like that's really how that goes. The next one is resistance towards challenges or learning something new. So this is something I think with tracking is huge. People are like, I want to track. I don't want to do that. It's overwhelming. It takes too much time. I will try it for like a day and then I quit and I don't want to do it. But like a way to kind of combat that and move into a growth mindset is be like, okay, it's going to take some time. Why am I feeling overwhelmed? What specifically about this is overwhelming to me? Is it because I don't feel smart enough because it's technology? Is it because I'm thinking of everything that I have to log? Like what is actually overwhelming about it so that we can like address that and make it less overwhelming for you? But like using it as an opportunity to like start small, practice. So like maybe if it is tracking, for example, you're just tracking breakfast first, hammering that down, getting consistent, and then start adding other meals or whatever that looks like. So when is the last time you had resistance towards learning something new?
Oh man, Steph, this will not come as a surprise to you, but it's social media. Like social media. All of these things, I told myself that I just suck at it. I told myself I'm not going to be good at it. I don't have to be good at it, right? But that's not true. So, a few years ago when I was trying to transition from training solely in person, trying to transition to an online space, I knew that social media it was going to have to be a part of the process. I was going to have to learn how to be good at social media. And I was so resistant to it for so long. I mean, to be fair, I honestly, I do have like some social anxiety. So there's, those feelings of just like, oh, I can't do this. I don't want to do this. Like, I'm not going to put the effort into doing this. And it took me really being very introspective about it, to be honest. I had to sit with it for a minute and ask myself, what is holding me back? Why do I feel like this? And what can I do about it? And luckily, there are areas of my life where I have developed serious discipline. My training, my food, I've developed that discipline. I've set the foundation to develop that discipline. And so I was able to draw on my experience and draw on how I was able to create that discipline for myself and kind of funnel it into this new thing that I had to learn. So like, I'm going back to basics, man. I have to put in my Google Calendar, block out time, engage in social media. Like I'm going back to basics, but I'm working at it, and I'm not good at it still, but
I think you're great at it. Your car videos are my favorite.
Listen, I am getting 1% better every day. Okay. That's it.
So I have like two good examples. The first one was like starting a Facebook group because I'm like, that is the cheesiest crap ever. Nope, that seems super like gimmicky. I don't want to do that. And I remember like going to like a NCI like nutrition coaching conference, and they're like, no, like you need to. That's how you can like create a good community. That's how you like network with people. That's how you can educate people. You do live trainings. I'm like, no one's gonna want to listen to me talk for like 30 minutes to an hour. And now it's like, I could do this like twice a week. I love this so much. It's so fun. But like,
now you have a podcast.
I know. And I was like, no, I was so resistant. And now it's like, honestly, probably part of the reason we're so successful is we have such a very like a good community that like we answer questions, we post educational stuff that people want to learn about. We do polls, we post like fun things, we give out free guides, sample recipes. And it's like, man, like this is crazy. The other thing is technology. Oh my goodness. And Taylor can tell you. So I hate feeling stupid. I really do. And when it's like educational stuff, like, okay, cool. I can learn this. It'll be helpful for me in the future. Technology, I give it one try and that's it. Like trying to set up my like podcasting stuff. You can ask Taylor. He like walked in and I'm like sitting here, like just so upset. Like my hands are in my face and I'm like legitimately halfway in tears. And he's like, what's wrong? I'm like, can't get the stupid mic to connect to my computer. And he's like, okay, like it's fine. We'll figure it out. I'll YouTube it. I'll ask Austin. We'll find someone. You can like message Jared because like Jared helped me out with a bunch of stuff. And, and I'm just like, as soon as there's anything tech stuff, Taylor's like, okay, hold on. Before we even start, let's research because I'm like, I will try. I won't succeed. I'll YouTube or Google once. And then if I can't fix it, I am like legitimately ready to throw things out the window because like I feel so incompetent and I feel like I'm wasting my time and I hate feeling like I'm wasting my time. So like trying to learn a new skill, like when I was learning to build a website and stuff, like it was so hard for me to keep my cool because I was like absolutely losing it. I forget what it was the other day. I think it was like connecting like Stripe to DocuSign or something. And I messaged Carrie and I'm like, oh my gosh, I did it. And I didn't even get mad. And she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you. But it's like, it was probably the most simplest thing ever. But like, I like, as soon as I go into tech stuff, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I'm already so fixed mindset that it's like going to be frustrating. It's going to waste my time. I'm not going to do well. It's like, man, like just, it's just a computer. You can do this.
Right. Just take a breath and try that second time. Maybe it's the second time you try it.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, it's so funny. Okay, so next one is feeling threatened by other people's success. So this is one that we see all the time, especially when we post like testimonials and stuff in our Facebook group or in Trainer Eyes and stuff. Like women are like always comparing ourselves to other people's journeys. And first of all, we're always comparing ourselves to like people's highlight reels on Instagram. People don't see them like crying and having the meltdown and being lonely and whatever it is. But you're always like, oh, they're so lucky. They have genetics on their side. And I had someone tell me this the other day, like, oh, you're so lucky that you get to like eat so many calories. And like, no, it's because I've been eating in a surplus for like the last year and a half. So I can lose weight at a higher calorie intake. It's not luck. I did a year and a half of like recovery before I went to a fat loss phase. Or you think that genetics are on their side and somehow they're just doing better and faster than you. But we forget that like everyone's individual, everyone's starting in a completely different position in their life. Their struggles are not your struggles and they're different struggles. They've come over barriers that you may not be aware of or how long of like the recovery period they've been putting in. So like using it as part of an opportunity to assess the small wins, the non-scale victories that you've accomplished. And just because someone else is doing really well doesn't mean that you're not doing well. Like so-and-so can have great success doesn't mean that you're not going to be successful or you aren't making progress. I think that's where like a lot of things happen. So like where have you been threatened by other people's success or where do you see this in clients?
Yeah. So I had a client once say to me, like, she said, I just wish I enjoyed working out like you do. And she said, I wish it came naturally to me. And I was like, hold on though. We need to remember that it wasn't always like this for me. The reason I am at this point is because I worked at it, right? I worked at putting that in. So, I think comparison is always just kind of a recipe for disaster.
I feel like we assume a lot, like when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. But I think another big one for me is, so I was doing my own thing, right? I worked for myself. I had my own small little business and I met you and I was blown away. And I reached out to you and I was like, please hire me. And luckily you did. But then suddenly I was on this team with other women, they're my peers, but suddenly I went from like being my own thing to like, now I'm with these other incredible women and every single one is incredibly educated. They know their stuff. They're well-spoken, they're articulate. And suddenly I felt very inferior. Right. And not necessarily threatened, but just like, do I belong here? Right.
Like imposter syndrome kind of, hey?
Totally. So, but instead of being threatened by that, I am able to see the incredible value that being a part of a team is, right? that surrounding myself with people who are going to make me better and surrounding myself with people who I can learn from and grow from is way more valuable than just being a lone wolf over here. And I mean, it's the best decision I've ever made, but I could have, if I allowed myself, I could have held myself back by feeling threatened.
Yeah, no, totally. And honestly, like that's how I feel when I hire coaches. Cause like I have a very, very small roster of clients myself now. So I'm not in the trenches as much, right? So it's like, I'm still involved because like we're constantly like having meetings and talking about client progress and how we would address things. And if they're having this, okay, what strategies do we implement and stuff like that. But I learn a lot from you guys, like even lives and stuff when you guys like write up scripts. It's like, ooh, I didn't think about this, or ooh, I didn't think about that. So it's like we're all successful in like different ways, and like it makes Vitality successful. But like I think a lot of people like that I personally know have hired people that aren't smarter than them in different aspects because like they're threatened of them being like better than them or whatever, and they want to be the best one in the company. I am well aware I'm not the best one in our company. I'm very good at communication. I'm very good at like relationship building and community and like nurturing and stuff like that. And then other people are better at like the nitty gritty coaching stuff. So when people are like, I want to work with you, how much is it? I'm like, nah, trust me. Like I'm really good at educating. I love teaching. I love speaking. I love like connecting the dots and creating reassurance and explaining things. I'm good at that stuff. And yeah, I'm a good coach too, but like, honestly, I feel like the coaches I've hired are better coaches than I am. And like, that's why I'm the CEO running stuff. And like, at first I was like nervous to hire coaches that I'm like, oh man, you guys are like smart. But like, you know, it's made everything better. And I think when we allow ourselves to not be threatened by other people's like success or like what they've accomplished or how smart they are or whatever it is, I think it just makes everything so much better. For myself, I get this a lot when like, I used to get it a lot. Now I don't. But like, when I remember going to my first conference and like talking to some nutrition coaches, and I was like, oh, I feel so inferior, so little. Like I don't matter. Like I feel stupid, basically. I'm like, I don't even know what they're talking about. But then I learned to like take a step back and be like, okay, what's causing me to feel this way? Like, why do I feel inferior? Why do I feel poorly about myself? And it's like, okay, all it is that I don't have the reps yet. I haven't ventured into that area of education, or I don't have the experience yet. So I'm going to go get those 3 things that I need to get myself there so that the next time I don't feel that way. And now this time when I went to the conference and I was speaking at it, which is crazy, and then people are asking me questions, I'm like, in a year, I have come so far. And it's like, so if you just chase those things, like figure out why you feel threatened and then go and get those tools so the next time that happens, you don't feel that way. Like that's honestly a huge key to success.
Yeah. And you used that word yet at the end of your sentence, right? Like, I don't have the experience. You could have stopped there, but you said, I don't have the experience yet. I think that's so incredibly powerful.
Yeah. And I think you can apply that to literally any aspect in life, whether that's like relationships, communication, nutrition, fitness, a skill you're trying to develop, whatever it is. It's just like, okay, I feel crappy now. How can I make sure that in a year from now, I'm not in the exact same position? So let's go chase those things. The next one is history of quitting when things don't work out right away or things get challenging. And this is something I have this conversation with clients so much where it's like, I don't think I can do this. I don't think this program is for me. I don't think I can do this. And it's like, whoa. Why? Where is this coming from? Let's create some certainty. Let's figure out what's going on. What's actually bugging you? What are your fears? And it's just believing that you're incapable of success is half the time because you've failed before. And I tell people all the time, like, just because something didn't work for you in the past doesn't mean this isn't going to work for you. All we know is that that thing didn't work. That's all we know about that. 100% is that approach, that type of coaching, that type of support, whatever it was, didn't work. So now we got to try something different and get you to where you need to be. And I think also understanding that like good things take time. Quitting is not going to get you any closer. We see this all the time where people leave and then come back a year later and they're like, I should have stayed. And it's like, yeah, probably. You know, like we don't want to be in the same place that we are, and doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting a result to change is madness. Like that doesn't make sense. That's like waking up every day and thinking maybe tomorrow the sky is going to be green. Like it's not gonna work. So it's all about like making those small steps to make sure you're getting closer to where you want to be. Quitting isn't going to get you closer. So when's the last time you wanted to quit something and that you're glad you didn't?
Well, I mean, the first thing that's coming to my mind right now is in relation to, being a mom and being a parent and parenting these two little kids. And every time I have every time something comes up where I have to have a difficult conversation with my kid, like if he's doing something and I need to address behavior, or if something's going on at school and I need to address that, those things are so difficult and so hard that it would be so easy for me to, when those conversations get to that point where it, starts to become difficult, it'd be so easy for me to be like, just go watch TV. Like, I'm done. Right. And if I just stick it out and we have those difficult conversations, at the end of it, we 9 times out of 10 have an incredible connecting, authentic conversation, right? Now, in terms of health and fitness, if I continue to have these conversations with my son, I'm hoping that in the future, he will trust me and he will always come to me for advice and he will always talk to me. So if in terms of health and fitness, if we continually just push past these small little, obstacles every single day, eventually that stuff will add up and you'll get to where your goal is. It's kind of like dollar cost averaging. In a different life, I used to work in the investment industry, right? And dollar cost averaging is, you invest a little bit, and then over time, there's potential for exponential growth. So it's all about, just kind of overcoming those small obstacles so that the bigger picture looks, I guess, brighter.
Yeah. No, 100%. I agree. Quitting is it's a hard thing. And I mean, there's so many times that I've wanted to quit. I almost didn't continue with nutrition coaching when my mom got sick and passed away. I was just in the beginning of really building the company, and it's where growth started to really grow, and it was really overwhelming. And I was so close to being I can't handle this right now. And I'm so glad I didn't, because it's crazy what has come out of it for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so believing that you are incapable of success because you have failed before. So recognizing this is probably because you haven't found the right thing yet. So just kind of like we talked about, we just know that what you did in the past didn't work. Doesn't mean what we're going to do now isn't going to work. And also, who you were then is not who you are now. And it's not who you're going to be, which I think is a huge, huge thing to realize. And this is something that I've struggled with a bit, in terms of why I don't like going back to my hometown a ton, why I don't like going back to just certain things or certain places, because I almost feel like it pulls me back to the person that I used to be, because people talk to me by the way they used to know me, because I haven't seen them in a long time. And I really struggle with that, because then it's so easy to revert back and just the way people talk to you and stuff. And they're like, oh, you're so different now. And I'm like, yeah, thank goodness. We're supposed to change and grow. And people who grow with you, we're the ones that are going to stick with you. And sometimes you outgrow those people, and that's okay. But just understanding that, I think that's a huge one, is the person you used to be is not who you are now. And it's not going to be who you are going to be when you get to where you are. So I think that's a really important thing. Is there anything like that for you, where it's who you used to be versus who you are now?
Oh, well, that resonates with me so loudly. I mean, the exact same. I have a hard time going back to my hometown because I tend to kind of revert back to that old person as well. I grew up, I was heavy, I was very overweight. And it wasn't until well into adulthood that I started to focus on my health and fitness. And it wasn't until I moved out of my hometown that I did, right? So every time I go back there, I not only kind of revert, kind of automatically, but also the people, my family, my friends, everybody that I knew and know from my old environment, they still see me as that person that I haven't been that person for almost 2 decades. Right. But because they're that's how they view me, I tend to kind of play into that a little bit.
Yeah, you almost like lose your confidence a bit. Hey, like you're less confident around those people. That's how I find I am. I'm just like, I like second guess myself or like, things like that where I normally don't.
Yeah, yeah, and you kind of, for me, it goes back to that imposter syndrome thing, right? Like I show up there in my old environment as this brand new person, and same stuff. Like I'm so glad that I've changed, but I'm this new person to them, and you kind of start to think like, oh wait, have I changed that much? Like what? Maybe I don't know. Am I as far along as I think I am? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and like I'm like a people pleaser, like big time. And I think that's like, it's helped me, I think, in a lot of ways, but like I find like now I'm a lot better at like standing like my ground and stuff. So when I'm assertive with boundaries, people are like, whoa, like what is wrong with you? And I'm like, nothing. It's just I don't want to do that, or I don't want to go party. I don't want to get drunk. I don't want to do this. Like that doesn't mean I like you any less. It's just that's not how I'm wanting to spend my time. And I'm like being pretty firm about it. And people are just like, oh, like what is that? And I'm like, it's how I feel good. This is who I am. Like I'm not going to be the same person I was when I was partying when I was like 18. Like things are different, which is wild.
Right.
But I mean, some people I haven't seen in like 15 years or whatever it is. So they expect you to kind of be the same, which is not. So another one is that's very common that we see with clients is feeling like an autoimmune condition that you have or like a hormonal imbalance you might have is the only thing that's limiting your success, and that nothing else is worth addressing until you figure out that one specific thing, or you feel like you won't be successful until that because that condition is like holding you back. This is something I think we see a lot with like hypothyroidism, seeing things with like fibromyalgia, seeing things with like diabetes or insulin resistance or PCOS. Like there's so many things, plus like estrogen dominance or low progesterone or whatever it is. And we almost use it as like a crutch as to like, I can't, like you almost blame any past unsuccessful things on that thing. And while yes, it's going to contribute, we also have to view it as an opportunity to write a list down of everything that we're perceiving that's holding us back. And remembering that we do have control over a lot of things in the situation. So remembering that just because your journey may be slow, you shouldn't be limiting yourself on the belief that you're stuck in one place because of XYZ. Like there's lots of other factors that we can control and change and manipulate to help us improve. So that people are like, oh, my hormonal imbalance. It's like, yeah, but you know what's going to help with that? Is if we're eating enough, if we're having enough carbohydrates, if we're sleeping enough. So has there been clients that you've struggled with getting this across where it's like, they use their diagnosis as like a crutch, and how did you kind of handle that?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I think it's so, and it's understandable, like that. A lot of people feel that way. So when a client comes to me and they do use that as, a crutch or an excuse, the first step is always just empathy, because of course you're frustrated. Of course you have, this quote unquote label that you've been carrying on your back. It's part of your identity. So of course there's going to be a little bit of a mental hurdle to get past that, but just knowing that it doesn't have to define you. I think a big one, here too is just simply aging, right? So I hear so many people say, well, I'm just getting older and this is just my lot in life. I just have to, accept this. Or maybe, I remember when I had a baby and so many people told me, oh, your body will never be the same. Your body will never be the same. And moms are out there just feeling like they're stuck with this new body now and they can't do anything about it. All of these things, they do not have to be a part of our identity. And regardless of what's happening in one small moment of your life, that doesn't have to define what happens for the rest of your life. And as long as you continually work on figuring out and getting to the root cause of some of these problems that you're having, you can overcome this, and it doesn't have to be a part of your identity.
Well, I think it's just like learning to rewrite the narrative, right? Where it's like, this might be the chapter you're on right now, but like the next chapters aren't even written yet. Like they aren't predetermined. Everything is changeable and anything can change in an instant. So it's like, you get so stuck on like what you think it's going to be like or what you're destined to do or be. And you have so much control over that. And that's not pre-written. So it's like you have so much opportunity to change. And like, that's really empowering. Like what I do when I'm having an incredibly hard time, which like when I lost my mom, I think I did this a bajillion times, but I wrote down all the things that I was like struggling with and like what I thought was contributing to me like struggling and where things were going wrong. And then I crossed off everything that I couldn't control. You are left with a significantly large list of things that you can actually do to help improve your circumstances and get you to where you want to be. And it might just be like, I'm tired. I don't have the energy to do anything. It's okay. Well, what's causing you to have low energy? Probably not eating enough, not sleeping enough, not doing things that fill up your cup, like lazing around, not moving enough. Like there's so many things. And like maybe it's also like grief or you lost someone or you're sick. And sure, there's things that you can't control, but there's so many things in your control that you can like take care of. And for me, that's something that really helped me when my mom passed away, because like that was like devastating and like really hard to get past. And I'm still working through it. But it's like, there's so many things that I can still do. And like, I think if I hadn't done that work to like really try and focus on the things that were in my control, I don't know that I would be okay in any way, shape, or form. Because it's very empowering realizing that you do have so much control over your life. Because when we don't take responsibility and control for the things that we can, we lose all of our power and completely give that away. And then that leaves us feeling hopeless and like desperate and like we have no control over anything, when in reality we do. It's just we have to kind of flip that switch to make us realize that like we do have all this opportunity to really improve ourselves or really be able to just take control of our life and take it back, if that kind of makes sense. And I'm sure you see that with lots of clients too.
Yeah, for sure. I tell my clients all the time that exact same thing. Control what you can, right? This comes up a lot, like when clients get sick. There's always something you can do to stay on track, right? Control the variables that you can control. For example, if you're too sick that you can't get a workout in, but you can still move your body, go for a walk. If you're too sick that you can't move your body at all, stay committed to your nutrition, eat your food, right? There's almost always something that you can control, that you can do, that you have control over, that will help to keep you moving forward, even despite all of these extenuating circumstances.
And like, I think we're always just so used to like when things are good, we're like crushing it and go, go, go. Life is always going to throw stuff at you. So like, that's the perfect opportunity to try and like pay attention to what you can control and really focus on that. Because if you don't, like, you can go down a pretty dark hole pretty quick and like really sabotage yourself. So like really focusing on that stuff, I think is really important.
Yeah.
So we got 2 more left to go. So the next one is constantly taking inventory of your abilities and what you haven't achieved yet. That's like a recipe for unhappiness for sure. Focusing on where you need to go in order to continue to get better and improve your skills and habits is definitely a better like way to approach things. So I think it's like, instead of being like, hey, I did really good at this, this, and this, I'm still working towards this. You're just constantly like, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. Like that's like a significantly different, like even just like talking about it, it's like, wow, this is miserable. And this is like way better.
Yeah. It's like, what is that? I can't remember the exact statistic, but it's like for every positive, like compliment that you get, there, you remember like, I don't know, hundreds of negative compliments or something, or comments.
Something like 4 to 8 times or something like that. Like, yeah, it's just crazy. It's like you need 4 or 8 positive thoughts to counteract 1 negative one or something like that, which is like wild. So wild.
Wild. But I mean, that just proves how incredibly powerful those negative comments and those negative things can be. So self-talk is so incredibly essential. Positive self-talk is so important to your success, and focusing on the positive.
Totally. And I think like celebrating your wins and being proud of how far you've come so far is huge. Cause like I didn't tell myself out loud that I was proud of myself until I was almost 30, which is like insane, because like I have actually accomplished like a lot. Like I did well academically. I've had some pretty like really high up there jobs. Like I've done quite well, but the fact that it took me till almost 30 to say the words out loud, I'm proud of myself, is actually insane. But I remember that being such a like monumental shift for me. I remember sitting in my clinic. It was like the day before we opened, and I was like bawling, and I said those words out loud. But it was like, that was like a shift. It's like, if I can do this, I can do anything. Like it was just a very big turning point for me. But for me, I never liked having attention in terms of like being acknowledged for stuff, because it always came with like negativity in terms of like bullying or people pulling you down, or like you'd be excited about something and people would totally damper it for you. So I didn't like telling people that I was doing well. Like I didn't tell people that I got offered to go to a university for volleyball in high school. And then when people found out, I felt really ostracized and like it was a negative thing. So I didn't even tell anyone about it, because it was like, I knew I was going to get bad response from it. So like, finally, when I started doing those things and telling myself I was proud, or, oh, I look good, or I'm going to get a tattoo because I want one. Like, I don't care what other people think. Like, that was so empowering. And honestly, from that moment, like it was that moment and that moment alone where like everything changed for me, like everything. And it sucks that I was almost 30 where I started to like actually feel like I had control over my life. And unfortunately for a lot of women, I think that they're still in that place in their 40s, their 50s, their 60s, where they don't feel in control. They don't feel proud of themselves. And I think like, I mean, we always over celebrate everything with them, but like, you have to celebrate those things. I think it's so important.
Well, and it's kind of, I would say it's kind of like it's a generational thing for sure too, right? I think like the generation coming up, they are I think they're much better at celebrating themselves. They're much better at celebrating, their own success and maybe the success of their peers. But for someone like me and my parents' generation, we were told that humility is the most important thing, right? And so, this definitely goes into some like cultural things. Just we were told, or I was told growing up that just be small, don't
don't take up space.
Don't take up space. Be humble. Be small. Don't be loud. But if we're not our own biggest cheerleader, who's going to be?
Exactly. And then the last one, which is like probably one of the most common ones when it comes to a fixed mindset, is just wanting to get to weight loss right away. Like, how many times have we had people come in and be like, I want to go straight into a fat loss phase. And we're like, okay, Heather, this is not happening. This is not happening. We've got some groundwork to cover. We will get there. But like ethically, I don't feel comfortable doing that, because I know it's going to do more harm to your body than good. And you're not going to be able to get to the result you want. You're going to feel terrible. And then also you're not going to sustain it. It's just going to be another yo-yo diet. And we will not do that. So like, how do you kind of word it to your clients that like, we've got like 6 to 12 weeks of doing some base work before we start going to the fat loss phase. Like, you might see some fat loss during the reverse, but that's not the purpose. We've got some time. How do you broach that conversation with clients?
Gosh, well, I mean, it depends on the client, but going back to the basics is a big one here. Taking one day at a time, not looking at the big picture, taking one day at a time and focusing more on, how are these positive changes that you're making in your life? How are they making you feel? How are they contributing to the quality of your life? How is your sleep? How's your mood? Are you happy when you're with your family because you're finally eating enough to not be hangry all the time? Focusing on one day at a time, one moment at a time, how you feel, and kind of get rid of that big picture, because again, like the big picture, that will fall into place if we take it slow and really learn to enjoy the process.
Well, and I think there's like a lot of women too that I've talked to, because I do like quarterly check-in calls with everyone, right? To see how they're doing on their journey and just like touch base and stuff and troubleshoot anything that might be going on. And it's fine. I'm like, okay, so have you started your fat loss phase? And they're like, oh no, like I'm loving eating more food. I haven't felt this good in years. I can't believe I thought I used to feel good. And now that I actually feel good, I'm like, wow, I used to feel like crap. And like people are like, nah, like I know, for example, when I coach Beth's clients, she's been at reverse or maintenance for the last 8 months. And she is like, has zero, like does not want to go into a fat loss phase. She's like, I want to build muscle. I want to keep feeling good. I want to like feel confident with like the way I'm structuring my meals. Maybe I'll go into a fat loss phase, but like right now I feel so good that like I'm almost scared to go into a fat loss phase because like I have not been this happy. And I remember being on a call with her and she was like, I used to avoid like family movie nights because I didn't want to be tempted around the candy that my kids would have or whatever. And she's like, we went to the store the other day, got some 5-cent candies. My child offered me little like penguin peach, those candies or whatever, which are so good. And she's like, and I took it and my child was so excited, could not believe that I ate it. And she's like, that was a huge turning point for me being like, I just made my child's day by eating like a 10-calorie 5-cent candy. But I wouldn't do that before. And like, I got to share that with my kid. And like the fact that that was such a huge thing where they were shocked that I would have a candy, that's wild to me. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty crazy.
I think also like being mindful when times like that happen, you know, like she could have easily just that experience could have just like came and went, right? But she was able to actually like analyze it a little bit and compare it to how she used to live and see the value in now taking that information and that positive relationship that she's building with food with her for the rest of her life.
Yeah. So I think that like there's so many things. And I mean, this obviously takes work. It takes time. It's a huge pillar of our company. Like, and we do that with everyone. We go over like mindset stuff and do worksheets and things like that. But like, I think it's just something that we can really take into all aspects of our life because like, I really try to think about like, okay, what's like, how can I approach the situation better next time or things like that. And this is something like Taylor and I talk about a lot, actually. We're both very growth-minded people and he's got a very open mindset, which I absolutely love. But for example, we were going somewhere and there was a woman behind us with a child who would have been like maybe 2, maybe 3, who was like crying. And like, I could tell she looked kind of frazzled. And Taylor's like, oh my gosh, like just get that kid to be quiet. And like, I didn't say anything at the time because like, I'm not going to start confrontation and like get crazy in the airport. But then afterwards you were like, he brought up something in conversation about like our travels. And I was like, okay, well, do we have the space to discuss this? And I was like, that really bothered me because like, she tried to feed that kid and you were like, meh, like needs to like that's just annoying or whatever. I'm like, okay, but you don't know if she's like exhausted. They could have slept in the airport for all you know because it was early. Maybe she has a bad home life and has no support. Maybe they are traveling because they have a family member who's like on their deathbed and she's just exhausted and just needs to get there. Like there's so many things to like give them some grace. And so you have to be like a little bit open-minded and like put yourself in those person's shoes or like things like that. And he was like, oh man, like I never thought of that. Like thank you for like having this conversation with me. And like, so we have conversations about that kind of stuff a ton. And I love that about him so much, but like, we're both very open and receptive to like hearing other people's perspectives and things like that. And like how communication works. And like, it's honestly one of my favorite things about our relationship is that we're both very like growth open mindset and like always willing and open to learn and improve. And that's something that I really love. And I think that's just like something that has made our relationship like super strong. And I think that's also why like all of our coaches do so well is because we're all that way, just learning to try and like understand really where clients are coming from or things like that, or where coaches are coming from and the way we communicate. Like no one's like overly defensive and we're able to have fun. Like our group chat's super crazy sometimes, but like we're all just so open and honest and like ready to accept feedback and ready to learn. And I think that's really what leads to people being successful, whether it's career, relationships, health, fitness. Like I think being able to develop this growth mindset is probably one of the biggest indications as to whether you're going to be successful in like honestly all aspects of life, if I'm being completely honest. But
on behalf of mothers everywhere, I would like to thank you for your empathy because traveling with kids is so stressful for moms.
Oh yeah. Like, and you think of all the stuff you got to carry and then like they're grumpy and then they know that you're just going to give them whatever they want to shut them up. So they totally abuse that. Like, I was that kid. I was loud. Like I was a leash kid. Like I was one of those kids that would just take off and people would like yell at my mom being like, you shouldn't have kids. Like you shouldn't even have pets. Like, why is your kid on a leash? And she's like, because my child is the most extroverted thing out here. And she will just walk off with a stranger telling them about her date or her elbow scratch or whatever. Like if you make eye contact, I'm gone. I'm like, ooh, attention. Like that was how I was as a kid.
That was so funny.
And I feel like I'm still that way, but that's okay.
I have a kid who will do that, and if I let him, he'd just give my social security number and my address and my name to anyone who listened. Like what?
Just super trusting.
No stranger danger.
What do you think was like, just to wrap it up here, but what do you think was the hardest part of like a growth mindset to develop for you? Like, is there a certain area or like applying it to a certain area of life, whether that be like relationship, health, fitness, or like a specific aspect of a growth mindset that was most challenging for you to develop?
Yeah. I think honestly, it probably not being able to take feedback, right? Because again, my parents would say that my number one phrase is don't tell me what to do. Because there's a pretty fine balance between being confident in who you are. Cause there are areas of my life that I'm incredibly confident in. And I like that about myself and I've cultivated that confidence. Right. But there's a huge line between being so firm in who I am, but not willing to hear what others have to say, or not willing to see the value in what others have to say or do for me. Right. So, I mean, that's just honestly constantly something that I'm working on. As a mom, I'm working on that with my kids. I was raised in an environment where like what my parents said goes. And I don't really want that for my kids, right? So we have more, and we're practicing it all the time. We have more of an open dialogue, right? And learning from my peers and other people in this space. Just, I think for me, it's just recognizing the value of these people and how they can benefit my life instead of, limit myself by not listening to them.
Yeah. And like taking like everything almost like an attack, right? Because I used to be like that. It's like, ooh, I have poor value because like you said, I didn't do a good job or whatever. And it's like, how can I change this? But
yeah.
So thank you so much for being on, Amy. This was super fun. Coach Amy is, again, one of the coaches here at Vitality. You can follow her on her socials. I'll tag that in the show notes below. But thank you so much for listening in. And I hope you found this helpful. This is a long one, but it's a topic that we both really love. So
that was so fun. Thank you so much, Steph.
Yeah.